Well, hello everybody, Mike with Spray Jones coming to you with another video. It's been a while, we've been busy, we've been working through the fall with a lot of projects, and there wasn't really a whole lot of new things that I was interested in doing videos on until we got through a couple of these big shops. And I'm just going to showcase you a very large, the personal best, largest building we've ever done in 17 years. I mean, we're not in an area where a lot of large buildings come up from time to time. Most people are building 4,000, 5,000 square feet, maybe the odd 7,000 square foot building. On agricultural buildings, yes, they go a lot larger, but this was our personal best. This one was a steel manufactured building that measured 80 by 150. Originally came out at 28 feet tall, and then there was a revision that he wanted to go taller, because you'll see in the pictures and in the video that there's an overhead crane. There's a parallel running beam to the long walls, the 150-foot walls that are built into the superstructure of the purlins, well, the main supports, I should say. And he wanted to go with a 28-foot inside eave, so that meant the building got to be 34 feet tall. I originally started seeing plans come across my desk for this. This was a personal, wasn't a tender. It was just some people that have seen us and know us. Farming operation that runs a very large mobile service center and ag repair center, so the tractors can come to them and go into these large buildings. Saw the plans come across my desk in like November of 21, and then December the revisions, and then finally, we had a deal in place for going into the new year. That meant 12,000 square foot shop, 34 feet tall, corrugated metal, galvanized roof, but a painted wall structure. So the walls were good to go with closed cell spray foam direct to them, and the roof was going to need to use a speed primer. Now, to you people that are watching that are interested in doing your own building, whether you're a spray guy or you're going to be the end user, I always get galvanized or Galvalume primed. It's cheap insurance. I mean, this is a 12,000 square foot shop on the flat. There's more than that in sprayable area because you have to factor in the ripple. Always factor in the ripple. I've found with these buildings a minimum of 10% is needed for the corrugation. So it's cheap insurance at that point to come in with a speed primer, hit the roof up, the ammonia etching primers burn right into the galvanizing, and then you've just got awesome, amazing adhesion with closed cell foam. Most times the foam won't just pop off or disbond from galvanizing, but why take the chance? You're doing this once for the next 2 or 3 generations, certainly outside of your lifespan, take every advantage that you can. So the building was made in Pennsylvania. They ordered it back in the wintertime and then started the groundwork in the spring after seeding. Got the grade beam in, got all the groundworks ready. And then we ran into problems where the building was supposed to be originally delivered for July. It was supposed to be up before July was out. That meant we were going to have the summer to spray it. They ran into some delays with the overhead doors and getting the sizings, and they couldn't put the building into the production line because they didn't have some of the information they needed. So that delayed July into August. Then they were supposed to have it at the end of August, and then they were supposed to have it finally at the beginning of September. So this posed a big problem for us because it was only it arrived September the 15th. And they needed 10 days to put it up, so that puts you into the 20s with no weather delays, no issues, and then having it clad. Now, the advantage to a building of this size is that, all right, it's a late season start. You're not trying to roll out insulation for the roof or the walls. You're just going to put the superstructure up, put the girts up, purlins up, and then you're just going to clad the thing, and then you can go. So that's advantageous because the wind on the prairies is an issue. You can get the shell up, and then you can work inside of the shell. And that's what we did. The building got there on the 14th and the 15th, 2 days, 7 different trucks. It took them 10 days to get the superstructure up and another 5 days to get the metal on. So by the end of September of 2020, we had the shell up, and they were just doing last minute fit outs and what have you. So doors were going to be a lot longer coming. So you'll see in a lot of the video that they closed up the doors with plywood, and they wanted that sprayed in because the doors weren't going to arrive till 2023 sometime. So The owner wanted to be able to pour concrete and do his interior fit outs, get the crane in, get the electrical in, get the lighting in, do all interior fit outs throughout the winter of 2023. And then when the doors arrived by springtime, they'd get those installed, and then he'd start moving his ag operation into the new building for springtime. So we had a very narrow window in the beginning of October to get this thing sprayed. Now, up in the Canadian climate, it's cold. All bets are off come about the middle of October. You can have snow in October, you can have snow in September. But I took a look at the weather and the projections, and we had just this perfect little 2-week window of, warm throughout the day, quite warm, like a nice fall warm days where you're into the 60s of Fahrenheit, or 15, 16, 14 degrees Celsius. Spray foam does not really like, closed cell foam does not like to go on in extreme hot days. It's not that you can't do it, it's just your gun fingers. It's hard to keep a pattern. Heat exhaustion is a real thing. Sun beating down on the deck. It can be 40 degrees Celsius, 100, 105 Fahrenheit, very, very quickly in the summertime. So spraying a great big steel box in the summertime can be an ugly task, and we've done it. So I was quite looking forward to the fact that the weather was going to be a lot cooler, sitting around 50 Fahrenheit as a mean temperature. But the owner came to me and said, "Hey, are we barking up the wrong tree here, Mike? Do we shelve this project till next year?" And I said, "No, I don't think so. I think we've got a 2-week window where the weather's going to be really, really good, and we go, and we hit it hard." So I put both my crews on it and advised them, look, it's going to be cooler mornings. We're going to be down to just over freezing in the morning. So you'll see us sometimes, we're spraying and the foam's a little bit cooler. And that's okay, because we just had to spray through a few hours of coolish weather. The foam can take it. We ordered in fall material so that we could be spraying anywhere from 0 freezing, 32 Fahrenheit, 0 all the way up into the teens, which is exactly what the fall systems are ready to do. So the first thing we did is get in and get the roof primed, and get some foam on the walls. So we put one guy on foaming up walls and getting everything done that they could walk and do easily, and then start working on the more difficult areas. The building itself had 10-inch deep girts. We were putting 2 inches of closed cell. I mean, we could have gone more, but we know the power of 86% thermal efficiency. We've seen this. We've seen it in all the videos where we've shown you videos, how much foam do I need. We eat, breathe, and sleep with our specs, and we know that this will go through any winter that Saskatchewan can throw it. It's on a farm. They get to decide what they want to do. They're not being forced to any building code here. We're going to blow the doors off anything they would have gotten with 6 or even 8 inches of foil-backed fibrous insulation. So the building is put up. We've got more than enough space to get behind the majority of the superstructure. Only in the corners and the webbing at the ends do we have some real tight areas where it's kind of questionable as to whether or not we can get the closed cell foam back in behind those beams. And how we deal with that as a company is we spray as best as we can with the closed cell and get a layer of closed cell, and then we switch out the open cell foam and put a layer of open cell foam and pack the distance between the closed cell foam and the beam and build up whatever it's going to take, 5, 6, 8 inches of open cell foam, so that these tight areas that you're not quite sure whether you got it all perfectly, the closed cell foam and then the open cell foam as a team will work as one to pack into that corner, and then you're not likely to have a dripping area where you've missed quarter-sized 1-inch diameter areas of bare steel. When you're dealing with a building like this, people might say, well, why aren't you wrapping around the girts and all that sort of stuff? The reason is that the flanges to the outside are all embedded in foam. All the hardware, all the fasteners are embedded in foam, and enough spray foam that the fastener is not just barely sticking through. So if you have a 1-inch deep, the fastener's coming through to the inside, and it's maybe a 1-inch stick out to the inside, well, 2 inches of closed cell foam is going to leave at least an inch of foam over the tip of that fastener. And if you need to build it up a tiny bit thicker, you want to go 2.5 inches where the girts, the flanges are, no big deal. So all you're left with for transference of heat is the thickness, the gauge thickness. So if it's 10 gauge, it's 1/8 of an inch. If it's 16 gauge, it's even less than that. So you're talking 100,000 thousandths of an inch, maybe 80 thousandths of an inch thick steel to transfer that heat through the metal. I've never had a problem with it. You can go in this building today when it's freezing cold outside, and they're not having a condensation problem on the girts. Okay, as long as they keep the humidity levels within check. So the building isn't full of all these weak spots. And doing this in a late season, you want to come in and do inside the shell versus putting the shell up, spraying to the outside, and then having to double clad it to the rear because you're still dealing with the elements. In this situation, we come in, spray to the walls, to the roof. We're inside our own little world. We can close off the doors. We can close off everything that we need to the outside. We can even throw some heat. That's what we did to take the chill out in the mornings, put a 300,000 BTU heater in there, warm it up at an additional 5 to 7 degrees Celsius, and the foam just sprays beautifully. So primer on the roof, couple inches on the roof, couple inches on the walls, and this just came down to pounding out material. How many sets a day can you put on, basically? So putting on product is a great thing once you're in a groove. We budgeted 13 sets of material for this. We've got 2 rigs to do it. So if each unit is putting out a set a day or even a little under that, you can do a set and a half. You can get through quite a bit of material in a efficient manner. You'll notice that the steel and the foam bond perfectly when everything is dry. If you're having adhesion issues, it's more than likely going to be a surface contaminant or water. So guys just have to make sure that there's no fine film in the mornings of water on the surface of the steel. But if there isn't, if the steel is dry, even though it's a little bit cool, you can just go direct onto it. And there's tight bond of the spray foam to the metal for life. And this is really one of the reasons why you want to do this. The fiberglass is never adhered. It's pinched between the purlins and the metal. You've got all sorts of condensation problems at the pinch points, trying to roll the insulation out. We are the building, okay? So the building is really one part made up out of A and B, okay? The superstructure of the purlins and the girts and then the metal forms the box, but that's all you've got. You've got a semi-functional, semi-useful box at that point. The closed cell spray foam at 2 or even 3 inches thick inside of a metal building like this, we are the envelope. We're everything. We control air. We control moisture. We actually aid in structural ability. So the building is going to have less tinniness and rattle. And I believe in these situations you want the spray foam direct to metal. Now, people might say, well, what if I want to change a panel off? Well, then you're cutting, you're breaking things apart, and there would have to be some damage to the building, and then you'd respray those panels in. But the adhesion and structural support that the metal is going to gain from the spray foam far outweighs the what-ifs of ever needing to have a contingency to disbond it. So I think that you need to be in direct, intimate contact with the steel. Now, we don't have any problems with the typical steel building manufacturer. We have had 0 issues when sensibly laying on the foam into the corners and into the edges and at the transitions. We've had 0 issues with it buckling or moving the building. In fact, my guys said, you can't even tell that we've been here from the outside. When you walk up to the building, it looks the same today that we sprayed it as it did when we first arrived. And that's the way it should be. I've heard of guys saying, well, I've had a guy that showed up and he buckled the steel. Well, then I'd want to see what gauge was the steel, how well was it fastened, and what was the guy doing. That's a failure of something along the way. It's kind of like having a flat tire and saying, look, these tires are no good. Every single time I pull into the parking lot, I get a flat. Well, are you? Has the tire got a defect? Was it installed wrong, or are you just driving over nails? Something's going on to make these problems. We encountered in the middle of this, of course, we encountered one of the funkiest electrical problems that I've ever seen that sidelined one of our rigs, and that was we were spraying fine for a week, then we came back the following week to do the final big push, and one of the units just was not responding. Guys were turning the control panel on. We have an old, we run twin R1 Generation 1 reactors in both of our machines, and I'll tell you, these things are a testament to how well Graco built them. I like them. There's very little to go wrong on them. They're a fairly simple system to figure out in service and maintenance, but in this situation, we were turning the heat on, and we had an ISO heater that was running away, and we had an error code that was tripping, and then we had a resin side heater that wasn't even warming up. But it was the running away on the ISO side, and it was the immediate error code on the hose that was causing us to really scratch our heads. And here's a tip of what I figured out. It took all the years of knowledge that I've had in the industry to try and figure this out, and Graco actually politely wasn't any help. When I called down to Minneapolis to ask them what I was seeing is going on, they said they'd get back to me, but didn't. Here's the thing. The computer system in all of these new machines, the computers and the electronics match up to the circuitry using some sort of an extension umbilical cord. At least they do in the old R1s. So if you have a control panel off to the left and you've got a separate cabinet with the circuitry, there's going to be some sort of wiring harness that attaches the two to control all of the relays and the contactors to turn the heaters on and off. That cable is a shielded cable. It's wrapped in what, for lack of a better term, tin foil. It's wrapped internally, and then it's wrapped with an outside sheeting. If that tin foil, if that internal sheeting gets damaged, the amount of millivolts that's going through the electrical cable will be skewed. So as a result, the brain cannot talk to the circuit boards properly. You know, the transmission is getting garbled. It's like electronic warfare. So we had a damaged cable, not in the sense that the wires were damaged, but in the sense that the shielding on the cable was damaged. That's all. Internally, it was fine. As soon as we got a replacement cable that was shielding was intact, the error codes went away, and we had no more issues. So to you guys out there in the industry spraying foam, and you've got machines, the umbilical cord, take a look at the umbilical cord between circuitry and control panels. The wiring harness is shielded. If it is, make sure it doesn't ever become damaged in such a way through chemical or being pinched or being cut, and you can't splice into it. That communication line is very, very important, and outside electrical interference from an AC system will throw off the calibration of what it's getting. So you might call for 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and it'll run away on you to 140 because the signals that it's getting are totally skewed. So this might be a no-brainer to a few, but there wasn't anybody in our corner that was guiding us to that. That was my own assumption. When I saw that there was a shielded cable, I phoned Graco and I said, does it absolutely have to be shielded? And they said, well, we'll get back to you on that. We're not even sure. And I said, well, I'm betting that it does. Like, they wrapped this thing in an expensive shielding for some reason. So I'm going to go and actually order another cable and see what it does. And sure enough, the problem left. And so there you go. Take that one as a tip for you guys that are running equipment. Keep your cables in good working order, and you won't have funky electrical problems midway through a job. So for us, we were down a rig. That didn't throw us off. It just delayed us on our ending date. We still had the weather window to be able to finish it, but it was awfully close. As soon as we got done, then the weather started to change, and a project that size, it would have then been impossible in the Canadian climate to get it sprayed out within parameters and have proper adhesion, proper quality. So the building like this, I think you're going to see more and more of these in spray foam. I mean, he's going to fit this thing out. I might do a follow-up video in the spring when the building's actually done. He's going to be doing 12 inches of concrete on the floor. I think he's doing an in-floor heat boiler system in it to keep free span up in the rafters, so he doesn't have any heaters or anything hanging down once you've got this tall structure. And then they can do all the build outs for the walls and for the roof. The whole thing's going to be clad on the inside, so you won't be looking at spray foam. So the spray foam is all going to be covered, but the advantage now is you've got a foam shell, you've got a warm shell, you can build inside of it, you can run cabling, wiring, air piping, any kind of delivery lines for oil and gas and whatever you need, oil collection. Everything can be built inside of that foam shell, right? And you've got the ability to modify it, change it, all the while not messing with the envelope. And then one day if you want to add on to the building, no problem. Like you're going to see on some of these walls, you just cut in the rough opening where the doors are going to go, cut out the panel, pop the thing out, and boom, the door goes in, and everything's smooth and everything's easy to fit up. And if we need to spray in a few spots for them to touch it up at a later date, easy to do. So closed cell foam on a shell in cold weather on a building this size makes perfect sense. Yeah, it's a fair chunk of change to spray something like this. However, as I said in the middle here, we are the building. We make it cool in the summer and warm in the winter and not cost huge op costs, and freedom of putting the shell up, getting the building sprayed quickly and efficiently, and doing your build outs interior wise. You just don't get that with other products. And then the structural support and the lack of condensation, I think that's a big thing. The only way you're going to have a condensation issue is too thin or you missed a spot with the spray foam altogether. Those are easy to do and easy to quality control, but I've seen multiple high quality pre-engineered packages with the absolute best, even up to R40 insulation system in the ceiling that still drip in the middle of wintertime, and they can't figure it out. It's not necessarily an insulation problem, it's an air leakage problem where they're pinching it at the girts, or where air leakage is coming in at the seams where one insulation panel or product mates up with another. With the spray foam, there is no problem with mating. It's liquid applied, foams up, you can't get air through it, you can't get water through it, and we're bonded to the substrate. How can you not love that? That's worth every dime you pay. So I mean, the building is 5 times more expensive to buy than what the spray foam cost, but we are the building. So at the end, we make it what it needs to be, so it's totally functional and useful. So if you got any questions, if you've got comments, lay them all down in the comment section. I'd like to hear what you have to say. If I'm missing something or you want to know more detail about something, ask me and I'll see if I can get back to you as best I can. I got more videos coming up. Got some under slab, 4,000 square feet of under slab that we're going to talk about, and we're also going to talk about doing regular wood frame construction and housing in the next couple of videos. So stay tuned, stay frosty, stay warm, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye.